How are you? Grace and peace be unto you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. It's 3 o'clock in the morning on November the 13th. And how am I going to report this to you? The City Court judge, Yonkers City Court, on October 25th, told Glendora to go home and produce receipts and evidence that what she was saying was true. Well, apparently the judge didn't believe me. But is it not a fact that Glendora went out and got signers for her TV show in Harrison and Port Chester, in New Rochelle and Pelham, in Yonkers, in Yorktown, in Peekskill, in Ossining, and in Wappingers? Is that not a fact? Well, it is. The paperwork is in their phalanges. Is it not a fact that Glendora turned over this personal information to Cecilia Masterilli and Christine Savarino of Cablevision? Is it not a fact that they called up these people, took that personal information and called up these people? Is it not a fact that these signers ran away? Is it not a fact that Glendora went out and had to get new signers? Is it not a fact that that cost money? It cost travel, gasoline, labor, hours, postage, telephoning. It did. It cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But the monetary jurisdiction of a city court in the state of New York for small claims is what? What? $5,000. That's the most you can be rewarded. So, here are the receipts and the evidence in Christine Savarino's own handwriting. She wrote back to all of these people she chased away and said she wasn't going to cablecast. She said she wasn't going to accept the application of the signer and cablecast a chat with Glendora. Did she ever send me a copy of these letters? No. Can you imagine being that savage, Savarino? I got them through evidence in the court. And here's what one of these letters looks like. Wait a second, all I can see is the, yeah, here's one of these. In her very own handwriting, there's the evidence you wanted. Judge Charles D. Wood. Right there. I will not process your application. Arrogance and ignorance. And how many of these letters are there? About 40. Is that not the evidence that you wanted? Charles D. Wood. Christine Savarino would call up these people and ask for proof of residency. What was Christine saying to my signers? I don't believe you. You put down that you lived at such and such a street. I don't believe you. Send me proof. Send me a utility bill. I like it when they send a satellite bill. So this goes on for the first, really. Here's all of their signatures as signers. So I think you got your proof. Judge Charles D. Wood of the Yonkers City Court. So that, I think we've covered the first volume. This paper is 7 volumes long and it's called a brief. And this section is entitled Unrewarded Exertion. I filed this case sometime in February. The Yonkers court fooled around and lost the papers. Then I had to send them another $20. And we had a hearing on June 7th. And Sawrock, the liar for hire, from the liar for hire law firm Sadley, Stevens, Burke and Burke, a Park Avenue lawyer, who never should appear in small claims court. It's ridiculous. It's Brogdonagnian and Lilliputian, if you've ever read Gulliver's Travels. He muddied the waters right away and got the judge so confused that the judge said, write a motion to dismiss, and you oppose it, and you reply, and you get a surreply. It started on June the 7th, it went all the way through July, and it went all the way through August. Now that is in violation of the Small Claims Act, which is Uniform City Court Act, Section 1801. It's supposed to be simplified procedure, simplified litigation. It's supposed to be over in 2 weeks. So Sawrock, and really the court too, were in violation of the Small Claims Act, a statute of the state of New York. So I pointed that out very, very heavily. Plus the fact that in small claims, a decision cannot be made solely upon papers submitted. That's not what small claims is about. And the judge, Arthur Doran III, or Doran they say, finally realized, and he denied the motion to dismiss. And he told Sawrock, who should have known better, that there was no action pending in White Plains City Court. They were not the same action. The defendants all had different names. And he told, Judge Doran told Sawrock that New York State Civil Practice Laws and Rules 3211, yeah, 3211 A7 doesn't apply in small claims. You can't say in small claims that the plaintiff didn't state a cause of action upon which relief could not be granted. You can't say that in small claims. It doesn't apply to small claims. So dumb Sawrock, a big bombastic Park Avenue lawyer, should have known that. It was stupid. Then he lost on something else. Let's see. He lost on dismissing the case, he lost on no pending action, and he lost on CPLR 3211, and he lost on something else. Oh, he lost on barring Glendora from ever filing another case in the Yonkers City Court. He lost on that. So there's all that exertion, and I'm going down. So Judge Doran demanded a trial be held, and that was on October 25th, 3 weeks ago. And so I pay somebody $100 to drive me down there, and I work on it 2 days of preparation, Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday I get up at 5 o'clock, and my friend picks me up at 8:30. We drive all the way down Route 9 to Yonkers. We tried to find Elmer Johnson at Lockwood Luncheonette, and that didn't work, and we tried to find him at home. He's my sweetheart signer in Yonkers. And then we went to court, and the poor judge was late. It was supposed to be at 1 o'clock. He didn't get there until 2:15 because he'd been assigned to traffic all morning long, and then he was given another assignment. So he kept all 13 cases waiting. Felt sorry for him. He must have been very tired. And I had to keep feeding my friend because he's diabetic. So that ended up costing about $120. And I was thinking, and then Christine Savarino, the lead defendant, was too scared and too cowardly and too duplicitous to show up. Do you know that the lead defendant doesn't have to show up? The lead defendant doesn't have to go to court. There's something wrong with the laws. There's something wrong with the courts. Judge Wood wanted evidence. Well, the very evidence that he wanted was in the mouth of Christine Savarino, who was so cowardly that she didn't show. She knew. Well, I had something like 20 pages of questions to ask her. So she didn't want to take the witness stand. And the judge says, oh, that's all right, she sent a lawyer. All right, I said, I want to cross-examine the lawyer. No. What good is a lawyer? The lawyer's all hearsay. He wasn't there when it happened. He comes in afterwards, after the suit has started. That's when the lawyer comes in. He wasn't there when the evil started. Something's very wrong with the law in the courts when that's allowed. Lead defendants allowed not to show. Now, when you think about that, it turns out to be to my advantage. She wasn't there to deny the facts that I just listed to you, was she? And the lawyer couldn't deny the facts. He wasn't there. He had no personal knowledge. And I believe Judge Wood intimated that this was really going to work against her. That she didn't come to court and dispute Glendora's allegations, which are facts now. So there's many points in here. Then Taibat Salako, the second defendant, was given a chance to speak, and she proved everything that Glendora had alleged, actually adduced. And she said that over the phone, Taibat said to me that Cecilia said you were bad. So you can see what's going on. That chased Taibat away. But in her own words before the judge, Taibat said that when she went over to Cablevision, Cecilia said about Glendora, you don't know what you're getting into. So you see, my claim is true. It was a deliberate chasing away of my signers. And my cause of action is it cost me money to go out and get new signers. And Christine Savarino has to pay that $5,000. So there you are, Mr. Charles D. Wood. There's the evidence that you requested. And I quote to you, Mr. Charles D. Wood, the small claims manual, that the litigation should be kept simple. trying to show you the cover of the small claims book. Anyway, I can show you this, which I sent to the court and underlined, and I also said this, and I also presented it to the court orally. The purpose of small claims is what, folks? To have cases what? Quickly decided. You call this quickly? From February to November? And we still got to wait for Sarok to refute my paper here of 360 pages. Now we have to wait for the judge's decision. And I kept saying, I object to Christine's not being here for purposes of appeal. And I kept saying that I objected to this for purposes of appeal. And Judge Wood said, you're jumping the gun. And this is going, if we do not get our justice, this 360 pages is going to serve as my appellant's brief. And now Sarok examined me, but not even from the witness stand. We were both sitting at the tables. And but the questions he asked me were, well, they didn't prove anything. What we're there for is the fact. And so Sarok pointed out that there was a paragraph in the so-called Cablevision Public Access Educational Government Kit rules that the applicant would be the local resident, and that Cablevision would deal only with her local resident and not with the cable access producer. And he said, did you ever see that before? I said, I've never believed that from the beginning. Just because Cablevision says it's so, it isn't so. And it has no statutory authority. Congress made no such law. The New York legislature made no such law. The franchisor made no such law. The municipality. So, and then he, you know, Sarok, as I've told you, is something, it's a heterotaxis. It's like a Picasso painting. Where an eye should be, there's an arm. Whereas a leg should be, there's an ear. And that's the way his examination went. And I said, what are you saying? What are you saying? So after about 10 of those, I think he finally gave up. And the judge kept saying, are you through? And Sarok says, yes, I'm through. And then the judge would ask me something. And then Sarok would come back with 2 more things. And the judge would then say, are you through? Sarok says, yes, I rest. And then the judge would ask me something. And then Sarok would come in with 3 more things. He did that about 6 times. I maintain that Sarok is not representing Savarino and is not representing Sulaco because he, under 10 requests from me, could never produce Carmody weight proof of authority to represent. Also, and the judge denied it, let him get away with that. And I told the judge, you're pro-lawyer. And Sarok, I maintain, did not produce proof that he was qualified to practice in the Yonkers City Court. Because I asked for that 10 times, and he never showed it to me. But the judge let him go with it. I told the judge, you're pro-lawyer. You know, the courts don't belong to lawyers. They don't belong to judges. They belong to you. They belong to you, the people. They're the people's courts. And they've taken them over, and they've made them a closed union shop. That's what it is. It's a closed shop. And this goes way, way back to the British Bar. Way back to the 1800s. The American Bar Association is a subsidiary of the British Bar Association. And it's all around the world. That's how deeply the evil goes. When you go to court and you see that corruption, you think, well, it's only the judge who's corrupt. And it's only that lawyer who's corrupt. But they're all corrupt. All during the years 2000 that we've had, all during the years of the 1900s, and all during the years of the 1800s, and all during the years of the 1700s. It's a closed union shop. Do you know that a lawyer doesn't have a license? Do you know that Sawrock doesn't have a license from the state of New York? No lawyer has a license. No lawyer has a license. All they have is a union card. American Bar Association. That's all they got. Who cares about the American Bar Association? It's just a union. It's not the people of the state of New York. They have no license. But doesn't a doctor have to have a license? Would you go to a doctor who wasn't licensed by the state of New York? Lawyers have no state license. Now, where are we? I believe that's volume 3. This is volume 4. Glendora had 20 pages of questions to ask Christine Savarino. There are so many good points made in this legal paper. It'll be very, very interesting to see if the court's going to be honest. Hokey smokes. Ooh, I think this got left out. I better get that down to Judge Wood right away. Volume 4, pages 121 to 171, November 2006. These are my driver, who was a witness, a good witness to everything that happened at the trial. Here are his notes. And now I've got to tell you something. Oh, also, when do I get my default judgment against Jill DeCrenza and against Officer Lewis? They're in default. They didn't appear. The last two defendants. I make a great point against the police state in the lobby. What right do they have to frisk us? And certainly, what right does a male have to frisk a female? There should be, if there's going to be frisking, and there shouldn't be, it should be by female to female. So that's police state, and I'm glad that George Bush got punched in the nose that Americans don't like a police state. That Americans do believe in Americanism, and Americans do believe in the Constitution. And Americans don't believe on being spied upon by the president and not even be told about it. And so that might be a very good lawsuit against these New York State court officers, so-called, in the lobby, going through your pocketbook and your boxes and going through your pockets making you take your belt off. Yes, this might be a very, very good lawsuit. You know what the cause of action would be? The Fourth Amendment. Illegal search and seizure. What is their statutory authority? And you answer that, New York State Office of Court Administration. You've gone crazy with this, and look at the money that it's costing. Look at the money and all the salaries that it's costing, and all these crazy magnetometers, and all these detectors that are going up and down your body. I think you've gone too far, Office of Court Administration. I think you've gone back to Nazi Germany. Glendora had 20 pages of questions to ask Christine Savarino, and it looks like I forgot to send this. Or I didn't forget it, I just, when I was packing it up, I put it in the wrong pile. Now we're up to volume 5, and these are receipts. Dear Charles D. Wood, wanted receipts. Well, we have a few hundred here. Receipts and evidence. Here's a nice page for it. And volume 6. This took how many hours? 96 hours. This paper took 96 hours. My ad hominem is there as to the hours and the dollars that I spent. One bad thing that I took exception to for purposes of appeal, change of judges. Now that's bad. You have to have continuity in a lawsuit. You cannot change judges in the middle. Now it isn't Charles D. Wood's fault, it isn't Arthur J. Duran's fault. 1, 2, 3. It's the fault of the chief judge, who was Arthur Duran's father. And his grandfather was also a judge there. There were 3 Durans, Arthur J. Durans. That a judge, they rotate. For 1 month they're in small claims, for 1 month they're in vehicle and traffic, for 1 month they're in landlord-tenant, so forth. Well, that's makes sense administration-wise, maybe, but it does not make sense litigation-wise. So for purposes of appeal, I took exception to the lack of continuity. I told the judge that even though Christine Savarino and I are antagonists, I have prayed for her and everybody else associated with this case. And Judge Charles D. Wood says, I'm sure they appreciated that. So here is volume 7, receipts. Here's some receipts. And there's more coming in all the time. And the trial lasted 3 hours. The judge was late, he did 10 cases, and they always save Glendora hearings until the end, until the courtroom is cleared out. Have they got something in mind? They don't want the public to hear what Glendora's going to say or something? They always do that. They leave the Glendora cases until last. This is very interesting. Today is November 12th. Well, actually, it's November 13th because it's 3:35 in the morning. On November 12th was Saturday. No, Sunday. And November 11th, Veterans Day. It's Veterans Day for World War II and Armistice Day for World War I. They never can do enough for the veterans. Think of what they did. 13 years ago, Veterans Day, is when Cablevision called Glendora and said they were not going to cablecast a chat with Glendora and Nassau County anymore. And that started one of the biggest lawsuits of all time. And they lost. 13 years, and that's when the fight with Cablevision began. Who was the aggressor? Who committed the first act of hostility? 13 years. How many lawsuits? 30, 40, 50? And this is what it has cost, folks. 3,194 hours to protect public access against Cablevision, who thinks that they don't have to follow the law, like arrogant and ignorant Christine Savarino, the latest offender. How much has it cost in money? $41,521. Make it $42,000 in 13 years. How many pages? 41,358. Make it 42,000 pages, like $42,000. 93 volumes, 17 file drawers, 305 mailings, and 1980 lies by Dolan, Cablevision, James Dolan, Mac Budill, Thomas Garger, Charles Former, Peggy Anderson, Christine Savarino, Cecilia Mastervilli, Robert Callaghy, Walter Sarrock, Sadly Stevens, Burke and Burke. 13 years. But we close with a prayer. And if I can find it, I'll read it to you. Oh, it was such a good prayer. Well, anyway, again, under penalty of perjury, Glendora vouches in agility that she has told you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help her God, and she will continue to do so. Not 1 millimeter of Glendora's soul is worth selling out to Savarino and the others at Cablevision like her. To wit, the following. And then comes a whole long list. I can't find the prayer, but I'll say one right now for everybody associated with, at the end of the trial, everybody in that courtroom, O'Brien, the clerk, Carlos, the so-called court officer, and Joe, the so-called court officer, and Sarok and Tabat, and Judge Wood, and to my driver, to everyone I laid a blessing. And in this closing brief of receipts and evidence, I sent them a prayer, and I sent it to them right now, that they find their oneness and their greatness with God. A fortiori with the greater force and all the more, and even more certain and necessary it is that Glendora be awarded the $5,000 damages and $40 court costs, because remember, she paid 2 filing fees, $20 each. Well, there's many good points made in this paper. in addition to the mundane receipts and the smashing evidence, that we hope will move the judiciary and the crackpot liar for hire, all of them, all over the United States, that will move them closer to what's important in life, and that's respect for their own souls. Here's a joke for you. The teacher said, "Why weren't you in school yesterday?" Well, first of all, we're closing the response to the court on receipts and evidence for Glendora versus Savarino, Christine Savarino, a Cablevision employee, and Taibat Salako, who allowed herself to be chased off by Cecilia Masterilli, another Cablevision employee who works for Savarino, and Officer Lewis and Jill DeCrenza in the Yonkers City Court. Two judges, Arthur J. Duran III and Charles D. Wood. Why weren't you in school yesterday? My mother took me to the cemetery. Oh, the teacher said, "I'm sorry. Somebody dead?" And the little boy says, "Yeah, all of them." Marilyn says her teeth are like stars, they come out at night. Bill says he hadn't slept for days, and his buddy says, "Why?" "'Cause I sleep at night." I am answering the ad in the church magazine for an organist and choir master, male or female, and I have been both for 30 years. "Can you read that?" the eye doctor said. "No." So he moves it closer. "Can you read that?" "No." So the eye doctor moves it closer. "Can you read that?" "No." "What's the matter? Can't you see anything?" The patient says, "It isn't that, I just can't read." The traveler says to the doorman, "Be careful of that box. There's a 10-foot snake in there." The doorman says, "Yeah, I didn't think the snake had feet." What did the judge say to the dentist? "Do you swear to pull the tooth, the whole tooth, nothing but the tooth?" And the man said in the haberdashery store, "May I please try on that navy blue suit in the window?" And the owner says, "No, you'll have to use the dressing room." Billy said to his little buddy, "They aren't going to grow bananas any longer, anymore." "Why? They're long enough already." And the husband and wife are going along on the trip, and the husband says, "I think we're got a flat tire. How could we get a flat tire?" And the little boy in the back seat says, "It was the fork in the road back there." Don says, "You see that man over there?" "Yeah." "Well, I owe more to him than anybody in the whole world." "Really? Who is he?" "My landlord." And Dick said to John, "You remind me of Dan Smith." And John says, "I'm not a thing like Dan Smith." And Dick says, "Oh, yes, you are. You both owe me $10. This is Glendora, Cheerful Look at Life. Brought to you by... Folks, I must say that Judge Charles D. Wood of the Yonkers City Court is to be commended for his quietness of temper and his amiability. And he certainly was patient, because there was no doubt about it that I was adamant on many occasions. So we do want to commend him on that. We will wait and see what his order is, what his decision is. Now we're going to take you to another court. This is the Supreme Court of the State of New York, the Appeals Court, the appellate term. And this is the oral argument for Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan, Cablevision Systems Corporation, James L. Dolan, his son, the Chief Executive Officer, Mac Budil, Thomas Gaga, Charles Forma, Peggy Anderson, Christine Savarino, Cecilia Mastrovilli, Sally Stevens Burke and Burke, Robert Callaghan, and Patricia Langelotti. This was a case in the Harrison Town Court where Judge Vogt really messed everything up from beginning to end. It was a hopeless morass, and the clerks along with him. The Harrison Town Court is a hodgepodge. Okay, you will hear them call the case Glendora versus Langelotti, but that's not the name of the case at all, and I told them 15 times that. I told the lower court and I told the appeals court. They just can't get... You know, the minimum you can expect of clerks and judges is that they be able to read. Read a caption. Is that so hard? No, they can't handle that. So this oral argument was in the County Government Center, Orange County, Goshen. And it was on All Saints Day, November 1st. I hope you can hear this.
I am Glendora plaintiff appellant, and this is my seeing eye dog. This is Mary Kenneth Kilser. This is All Saints Day, and I am your saint. And you're a little angel.
That was to the judge named Angio Lilio. Literally translated, he's a little angel. The next one is to Tannenbaum.
Christmas tree.
To Tannenbaum, you are a Christmas tree.
Now, the judge asked the defendant, why did you park there? And the defendant said, there was a sign that said fine for parking.
No laughter, stony silence. But I defend the jokes. They're good. And so Rudolph, the presiding justice, asked me to move forward a table for my convenience and for the benefit of a microphone.
I appreciate that. Are you talking to Mary or to me? Or to both of us? Oh, thank you. Did you hear the beginning? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Now,
You can sit down. You don't have to stand up.
so this is astrologically auspicious, and under penalty of perjury, Glendora asseverates with alacrity that she's telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God.
Rudolph says that you don't have to take an oath, that this is an oral argument and it's not a trial. But I still want them to know that I am speaking the truth.
Now, if Glendora asks you if you have taken an oath of office, you will say yes. If the city
Rudolph is saying, get on with it. He didn't answer about taking an oath. He's just saying, get on with it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And he says, again, get on with the brief, and Glendora says, I heard you fine.
I'm sorry, I have some preliminaries before I tell you my brief. I appear before you as a living, breathing, natural-born American citizen, claiming all rights in the federal and state constitutions. Is there any objection to what I just stated? This court abides by all the powers and rights guaranteed in American citizens in the federal and state constitutions, including due process of law. Is that correct? I am entitled to and guaranteed to a fair and impartial hearing presided over by 3 fair, unbiased, and impartial judges. Is that correct? And I think I've won my case, if your answers are yes, because this is a constitutional issue.
Stony silence. They didn't answer any of the questions. They didn't answer, had they taken an oath? They didn't answer, are they abiding by the oath? They didn't answer that I was protected. Stony silence. 3 judges would not say whether they'd taken an oath of office, would not say whether they had taken an oath to support the Constitution, would not say that they had taken an oath to do due process of law. 3 judges in an appeals court in the state of New York.
And my colleagues tell me that pursuant to the 14th Amendment, Section 3, that a judge can lose his job for not obeying an oath, and a judge can lose his pension. Now, the first error and abusive discussion by John M. Bloch of the Harrisontown Justice Court was that he violated the Small Claims Act, the Uniform Justice Court Act, and he did not have a hearing. You don't have summary judgments of small claims. You don't have papers decided, cases decided on submission. There was no hearing. And the parties have to have an opportunity in small claims, because they're mostly unrepresented parties, and they must have an opportunity to examine each other. Now, the third reason you should rule in my favor is that it was a default judgment. Unfortunately, through the elementary canals of these courts, the case got all turned upside down. This is not Glendora versus Langelotti. This is Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan, Cablevision Systems Corporation, James L. Dolan, Mac Budil, Thomas Geiger, Charles Former, Christine Savarino, Cecilia Masterly, Peggy Anderson, Sadly Stevens Birkenberg, and Robert M. Callaghy and Patricia Langelotti. That is how the caption was written, and you cannot touch a caption without an order from the court. So, Sadly and McQuaid and Callaghy, who claim that they appeared for the first 8 defendants I just read off to you, Charles Dolan down through Christine and Cecilia, they cannot represent those upper defendants, because a defendant cannot represent a co-defendant. So these people, Charles Dolan down through Cecilia Masterly, did not appear. You have the minutes that I paid $95 for. The minutes give you that proof. Now, the fourth reason Mr. John M. Bloch should be vacated, not remanded, but vacated, is that anything he wrote is null and void because he violated CPLR, Civil Practice Laws and Rules, Section 2219, which states that a judge has 60 days to make a motion. I filed this case on St. Patrick's Day, 2004. In 2005, April, I was hearing from him for the first time. And further, you must rule in my favor because neither the lawyer for Langelotti nor the lawyer for the top defendant going down through Cecilia, neither of them gave me a notice of entry of the two papers that John Vogt wrote. John Vogt was not familiar with the facts and circumstances. He really knew nothing about the case. And best of all, whatever lawyer showed up, the lawyer for Langelotti and the lawyer for the law firm Sadly Stevens, Burke and Burke, they never made a meritorious defense. They did not refute the facts. The facts of the case is that Glendora got the signers for her TV show. By the way, I don't know how much background you know about Cablevision, but they require, with no statutory authority, that I have a local signer for every system that I'm in. Yonkers, one for New Rochelle, Pelham, one for Nassau County, one for Suffolk County, and so forth. And as I say, there's no statutory authority for that, but I would go out and I'd get the signers. They didn't dispute that I got the signers. It's a matter of record. It's in many of the papers. They didn't dispute that I dutifully entrusted the confidential information on those papers, the signer's name, address, and telephone number, confidential information. They did not deny that. They did not deny that they called up these signers, and they did not deny that mysteriously these signers backed down. They didn't want to be a sponsor. And they didn't deny that I went out and got new signers. Ergo, therefore, and wherefore, I was damaged. A whole lot more than $3,000, but that's the jurisdictional monetary, or the monetary jurisdiction of a town court at that time. They didn't deny any of those facts, and they didn't defend against any of those facts. It stands that it cost me money, it cost me time, and it cost me earnings of labor to go out and get new signers. I'm glad to say that I'm unopposed here in this court. I want to criticize. You understand that Callaghan's brief was only in defense of Callaghan. He was only defending Callaghan, and he was pro se. He was a lawyer, a Park Avenue lawyer, pro se. And I would say here that a Park Avenue lawyer in small claims court is like a bull in a china shop. He didn't know enough not to quote unpublished opinions. I say again, I don't want a remand, I want a vacatur. I want this court to award me the $3,000. I've had 2 wins before the appellate division. Excuse me, I misspoke. The appellate term. Ingracia, DePaulo, and Collins. I will not go, if I lose this appeal to you, I will not go to the appellate division. The appellate division, I've had 20 cases before the appellate division, and they made me an informa pauperis. I will not go to them. I will go straight to the Judice Court because it's a constitutional issue, and if I don't win there, I'll go to the United States Supreme Court because it's a constitutional issue. And remember that everything that you heard from Callaghan is all hearsay. He was not there when it happened. He showed up later. I was there. And he never declared that he was fully aware of the facts and circumstances, nor did he ever declare or swear under penalty of perjury that he was telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do. That's all? I have 4 more pages. You got enough?
Well, they had enough, folks. What would you say that was? 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? Well, they had enough anyway. And when I said I have 8 more pages, the presiding justice rose and he says this court is adjourned. And they had to pass over a very big stage and down a very long ramp. And when they passed down the long ramp, they came pretty close to me. By the way, they must have been 40 feet from me. That's no way to have run a courtroom. Okay, and this is what happened. As they go down the ramp.
Thank you. Is this a court of record?
Stony silence.
Is this a court of record?
Stony silence. Well, it isn't a court of record. And the reason they didn't answer is that they knew they were wrong in not being a court of record. Since when can an appeals court not be a court of record? Since when can any court not be a court of record? That's in the Constitution. November the 1st, All Saints' Day, Goshen, New York. Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan, Cablevision Systems Corporation, James L. Dolan, Mac Budil, Thomas Garger, Charles Forma, Peggy Anderson, Christine Savarino, Cecilia Masterilli, Robert Callaghy, Sally Stevens, Burke and Burke, and Patricia Langelotti. Wait, and I'll tell you when the decision comes in. How do you think it's going to go? Now this is very strong. When a person stands up and faces three judges and say, did you take an oath? And are you keeping that oath? That's pretty strong. That could work very much in our favor. But at the same time, it's so strong it could work against us. Interesting, isn't it? So I may lose the $3,000. But let me tell you, that standing before those judges and asking them those questions, did you take an oath and are you abiding by it? That's worth $3,000. Yep, that's it. They're all gone into the woods now. Look at this, folks. It's the blue sky. Blue, blue, blue. Blue. Blue sky. Let's look over here. We can